Been talking about drought all evening.
Yes, we have, with some heart-wrenching images coming from Kilifi County. Joined with us now is Gershon Wakazi, who is the Disaster Management Director at World Vision. Thank you so much for joining us. You saw the story in part one of the bulletin, Gershon, and, you know, I'm seeing a lot of reactions from Kenyans wondering, how did we get here?
Yes, the story in Kilifi. I was in Kilifi the week that has just ended. And those are not just stories, those are realities of what is happening out there. And how did we get there? It is because of the vagaries of nature. The failed 4 consecutive rain seasons in counties like Kilifi, but not just Kilifi. There are even other worse counties in this country, where for the last four consecutive reasons they have not harvested
seasons without
anything.
rainfall in Ganze.
And this is what is leading to depleted pastures. Water reservoirs have dried up. We have read reports and seen mortalities of livestock in the arid and semi-arid parts of this country. As of end of June, the record was at 2.4 million livestock that have died. And you know what that means to especially the communities that live in arid areas where they mainly depend on livestock. That means that there are children who may not go to school or may have to stay out of school for a while because their livestock which they depend on have died. It means that there are children who might be stunted for the rest of their life because they cannot able to access food in acceptable quantities, nutritious food in acceptable quantities of their preference, as it is expected of any human being. Like
Gerson, you just mentioned there are worse counties than Kilifi?
Indeed,
Which
there
ones?
are counties like Turkana, Marsabit, Mandera, Samburu, Wajir, Isiolo, Tana River, among others. We have 11 counties that are worse than Kilifi as we speak.
We also
like
had
Kipia included.
Yeah, we had the Kenya Red Cross Secretary General here a few weeks back. And she mentioned what is also extremely worrying is some counties that weren't in the traditional drought-stricken category. Which counties are we seeing now that fall into that?
There are 23 counties out of the 47 counties in this country that are listed among the arid and semi-arid counties in this country. But this drought is now stretching its tentacles to counties like Nyeri. Only a small portion or percentage of Nyeri would have been classified as arid and semi-arid. But now, Nyeri is experiencing food insecurity. Now we are hearing counties like Siaya in the western part of this country, and counties in the western part of this country, that's where we depend on. That's where it's a food basket, right. The western part of this country and the central part of this country. Counties like the counties which border Isiolo, like Meru. Tharaka-Nithi, of course, it is an arid area, but the situation continues to worsen. And this situation, if it is touching Nyeri, Meru, Siaya, you can start to imagine what is happening in Turkana and Mandera, where people have to walk over 10 kilometers to access dirty water or water that is not of acceptable standards for human consumption. We have witnessed this for a long time, but this drought that we're experiencing is compounded by other factors that it would have been a little bit easier if these factors were not included. We are talking of 2019, 2020, where this country was invaded by desert locusts. They depleted the little pastures that were in those arsal areas. Before we could breathe fresh air, came COVID, which further deteriorated families coping and assets which are remaining, which could help them cope better. Then skyrocketing of the food prices, courtesy of conflict that is very far away from this country, and also conflict within our neighboring countries. And this drought also is affecting countries like Tanzania and Uganda, whom we traditionally depend on as our immediate neighbors, where we could so. But now they have also to take care of their people before they can allow exports to other countries.
Gerson, I remember when some of us were very young, about 40 years ago, there was a drought like this one, as terrible as this one. The question I want to ask is, what is it going to take? Is it people, for lack of a better phrase, dropping like flies for us to respond? What is it going to take? Because we see dead animals all over the place. And, you know, it doesn't seem like much is being done. What is it going to take?
In the drought categorization, we have 5 levels. We have the normal situation. Then we have moderate food insecurity. Then it graduates, if interventions are not, if you don't act fast, it graduates to crisis. Then from crisis to emergency, and emergency, the last phase is humanitarian catastrophe. And that is what we call integrated phase classification 5, which is famine.
Where are we?
Now, in Kenya, in the counties that we have listed as worst affected, they are at stage 3. But if we do not step up our efforts, they can easily slip into emergency. But within them, there could be pockets of emergency situation that requires urgent action. Now, famine is not just about drought or lack of food. It's brought about by other factors like conflict. There could be food, but you cannot access it. And therefore, for a country like Kenya, where we have a functioning government, it's unlikely for us to fall into the situation of famine. However, it is possible to slip into emergency situation. And emergency means that many children would be malnourished, severely malnourished. It will mean that many families would be going without food or a meal per day. It would mean that children would be dropping out of school. It could mean that pregnant and lactating mothers are at higher risk. Globally, women are at 15% higher risk of food insecurity, especially at times of emergency, compared to men. And right now, we have around 143,000 women who are pregnant and lactating who are in urgent need of food security and, food interventions. And we have around 940 million children who are malnourished. So those are people. It's not just a number. Those are people. Now, when people are pushed this far, they start engaging in extreme coping mechanisms, which could further harm these vulnerable members within our communities. Such could include some families allowing their children who are underage to be married for them to get a little either cash or livestock to sustain the others. It could mean family separations. Like you have heard stories of women and women having to leave their children behind to go cutting trees to burn charcoal. In some areas, they have cleared the trees. Now they are uprooting the roots, which were left behind to burn charcoal. And because the husband also are away from the family, people with ill intentions may come and cause harm to these children.
So, Gerson, you've described a very dire situation if action is not taken swiftly enough. But before we let you go, another important question is long-term measures that need to be put in place so we avoid this. We were talking about the failed rain season. 4 consecutive seasons failed. The next one could fail after that. But what long-term measures need to be put in place?
As I answer that question, I need to mention that the situation could have been worse were it not for the government intervention and other humanitarian actors like World Vision, who are already intervening in providing food for both livestock and human beings, tracking safe water to these communities, providing relief food and cash assistance to these communities. But the long-term measures, to answer your question, is like things like what we saw His Excellency the President the other day, yesterday, where a big dam was being launched, which will scale up rice production in that area of Kirinyaga from 25 1,000 hectares to 35,000 hectares. If that could be replicated to all these counties that a lot of water just drained to the ocean, having big reservoirs where we can apply smart agriculture through irrigation, where we can help farmers to access farm inputs at affordable prices. Those are the long-term measures. We need also to make sure that we take good care of the environment. If we have reached a point where people are uprooting the roots, roots from the trees they already cut to burn charcoal, then even if it rains in a normal rainfall, with that destruction of the environment, unless we move very quickly to apply such proved technologies like the farmer-managed farm regeneration, which helps the farmers to work together with the government, other practitioners, right, to help protect the environment, then the situation would be dire. Other things is ensuring that livestock, human beings are kept away from the wild animals. In the area we saw in Kilifi, if we went deeper, you realize that elephants are competing with human beings for the little water that is being tracked there. You track water. If you don't leave some for the elephants, they will destroy the water reservoirs that you have there for the community.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Kirsten Mwakazi, we'll have to continue this conversation, huh? And thank you so much for enlightening us on this day.
Thank you very much.
That's Kirsten.